Think of the children. It's one of humanity's golden rules. Whether it pertains to war, poverty, or any hardship the world is taxed with, the children are the ones who should be protected at all costs. They are the future, the ones who will proceed forward in this constantly changing world. They are the ones to keep humanity from dying out and going extinct. Without them, there would be no society, no tomorrow. They are the world's legacy. And yet, despite their importance, their innovation, and their malleable, influential minds, some children are born into the most unwelcoming circumstances. Born into those hardships, war, poverty, and disease. But at least those children are born with love. Some poor angels are brought into unloving arms. They're unannounced, uncelebrated. Some kids are born without desire, no anticipation. Some are even born from parents carrying heavy weights of dread, crushing them like cement. Treated as if they're a burden from conception. It begs the question if carrying a baby to term is even worth it to them, if they're just going to live miserable lives anyway. Why bother? Why put them through that torment, especially when the option to spare them from it exists? It's a touchy subject for most, but some are set in their ways, and that's their choice. It's a choice that goes both ways, regardless of what society may say about it. For those who choose to bring their babies into the world, even if it's a world they won't thrive in, those babies need solace too. They need arms that are actually willing to lift them up into the light. It was a stormy evening in London, but even the demanding booms of thunder weren't going to stop people from their pressing jobs, especially the warriors working in the hospital, namely the NICU, or the Neonatal Intensive Care Unit, to be more technical. Nor would it stop support characters from visiting the hospital to see their loved ones during vulnerable times. A woman drenched from the pouring rain was seen tapping her anxiously rubber-booted foot. She was shivering a bit from the cold water all over her clothes, but that was the furthest thing from the front of her mind. She had been called about another newborn to take in, another orphan. Cassie loved her job. She loved her orphanage, and she most especially loved every single child living in it. She had always aspired to help children in need, as she was once one herself. It took everything she had to start this business, and even though it was a struggle mentally, physically, and especially financially, every day was exactly how Cassie dreamed it would be. Her heart was full. She knew what she was doing was highly valued, giving her an irreplaceable sense of accomplishment. But it was always heartbreaking to venture back to the hospital for a baby, especially a newborn. They were never even given a chance. That immediate love that mothers had for their newborns as they were brought into the world was robbed from them. They were just seen as an object, not as a new life. Cassie's mission in life was to fill the void that unloving parents left within their children. It was a scary thought to think that had it not been for Cassie taking in these babies, what kind of sick twist of fate they would be in for.
Cassie Hughes, the nurse will see you now.
The nurse eventually led her back into the NICU, her co-workers speeding around to each patient and baby with a sense of heroic purpose. Some were comforting mothers about their babies' conditions. Others were monitoring the infants, pressing buttons on their machines to make sure they were warm, breathing, and otherwise stable. It was an incredibly overwhelming room to be in as someone who wasn't used to it. So much ear-bleeding beeping, bright, blinding lights, anxious crying. Cassie was familiar enough with it, but it never did get any easier. She had to change into a light blue gown and cap, since some of the poor babies were sick and vulnerable to the outside world. Luckily, the baby she was here for wasn't ill. She was perfectly healthy, in fact. So Cassie was a bit confused and even a bit anxious that she was even being led into the NICU instead of the normal nursery.
Oh,
Wait, it's a NICU baby? Is she okay?
Ooh, yes, she's quite all right, rest assured. Oh, my apologies. We should have told you. She's actually been in the NICU for a few months now, but today she's finally ready to be discharged.
After traversing through that miserable labyrinth, the nurse finally settles on the bassinet in question. It was a quiet corner of the otherwise hellish NICU, easing Cassie's stubborn worries.
Here she is. Oh, the sweet angel.
As Cassie cautiously peeked her head into the bassinet, her breath hitched with adoration. This precious little girl had beautiful, dark honey-brown tufts of hair on her head and the prettiest brown sugar skin, dressed in an adorable baby pink sleeper. It must have been helping with its purpose as she slept soundly in her warm bed with an adorable pout formed on her lips. She was one of the prettiest babies Cassie had ever seen.
Oh my goodness. Little angel indeed. Hello, beautiful.
Cassie cooed quietly, running her hand gently across the baby's head. Upon feeling the sensation, the baby girl began to stir, whimpering at the cold touching her head. She opened her eyes up at Cassie, who giggled sweetly.
I woke you up. I'm sorry. Oh, but look at those pretty eyes.
There was a hint of light green beginning to form in her irises, but her eyes were big and quite expressive for someone so young.
Oh, she is so darling. Can I hold her?
Cassie asked, a hint of eagerness laced in her gentle tone. The nurse smiled, nodding.
Oh, yes, go on ahead.
So Cassie picked up the little girl and cradled her gently in her arms. This baby didn't even feel real. She looked like a doll, making Cassie giggle with warm disbelief.
Oh my stars, look at that face. What are you doing here, huh?
She was born 3 months premature.
Cassie's eyes widened, looking up at the nurse as she said that.
3 months? She looks like she was born a week ago. You're aging like a pro, huh?
The nurse chuckled.
Oh, I know. She's absolutely stunning.
What's this angel's name?
Her name is Everly. With an IE.
Everly. Even your name is pretty. Just like you.
The little Everly simply yawned in response, making Cassie coo sweetly.
Oh, it's such a shame. She's such a lovely baby. Well-tempered, not fussy at all. Yet her mother immediately filled out the orphanage paperwork as soon as she was out of surgery.
Was it an accidental pregnancy?
Cassie asked.
No, she definitely wanted a baby. Just not her, I'm afraid.
Oh, that's terrible. Who wouldn't want her? How can you say no to a face like this?
Cassie frowned, rocking the baby slowly.
What about the dad?
The nurse shook her head.
According to the mother, he was not in the picture. They're still married, but I don't know all the details. I apologize.
Perhaps they were separating. Oh, you poor thing.
Well, I'm not too worried. You'll give her a wonderful life at your orphanage, I'm sure.
Cassie smiled, with a tinge of sadness in her eyes.
Oh, of course. And she'll be adopted by loving parents who will spoil her pretty face rotten.
That was the hope, anyway. That was always the hope. Everly was one of those babies that Cassie figured would be adopted quickly because of that irresistibly sweet face. It could melt anyone's heart, she was sure. So, after making sure Everly was completely healthy and ready to go, Cassie gathered up all the paperwork for her and headed back to her car in the pouring rain. It was a bit more bearable with the baby's warmth on her chest, but the chilly water was making the baby whimper and cry a little. Cassie tried her best to shield her as much as she could. She hadn't expected it to downpour like this while she was driving to the hospital. She should have come a little more prepared.
I know. Almost there.
Once Cassie finally made it to her minivan, she strapped Everly into the car seat, gently wiping rain droplets off her cheeks. Those cheeks were just too squishy and adorable for Cassie to not pepper them in sweet kisses, which slowly but surely eased Everly's crying. Cassie got in the driver's seat, taking an exhausted breath and looking at her drenched brown hair in the rearview mirror. Thank goodness for those rain boots, she thought. Her car was full of newborn essentials. Diapers, bottles, formula, blankets, onesies. The glove compartment was also littered with bills and lengthy receipts she had been meaning to put in her office. As much as she already adored Everly, she was certainly not adoring the additional expenses that came with her. But looking back in the car seat behind her, watching Everly curiously eye her reflection in the car seat mirror, made all that hardship worth it.
Alright, Everly. Ready to go home?
Everly was certainly a hit with the rest of the orphanage staff. Once Cassie brought her in and introduced her, everyone's eyes lit up. She was as if someone had brought in their puppy to work. They flocked to her. And Everly took it like a champ, not crying even while being passed from worker to worker.
Oh my god! Are you serious, Cass? She's literally perfect!
What a little cutie! I could just eat you up!
Oh, that face! Ah! I can't handle it! I might just have to take her for myself!
She was a nearly flawless baby in their eyes. She rarely cried that much, slept like a rock most nights, and was fed regularly with little issues. She was a little golden star on the orphanage's billboard, a poster baby for their cause. The longer she was there, the more the staff started to realize how smart Everly actually was, and how quickly she picked up new skills. She started crawling sooner than most babies, and was walking by the time she was 1. But there was one thing that wasn't so perfect about Everly. Reading books with her or showing her anything that was too far away proved difficult. Anytime a staff member sat down with her to read a book for bed, Everly would start to get fussy and look confused. But she clearly showed interest in books, as she would go into their designated book box and pull them out to be read to her. But the reading part was where things got stressful.
You want to read a book? But you're going to cry again, honey.
But that face of hers was kryptonite to the staff, so they'd attempt to read the book to her, only for Everly to cry and point to the pages frustratedly. It wasn't until Cassie actually witnessed this for herself that she realized what the problem might be.
Let me try something.
Cassie tried holding the book they were reading closer to Everly's face, and the crying stopped. She took the book into her tiny hands and began to scan over the pages quietly. The other staff member with her gasped.
Oh, that makes so much more sense.
Yup. I think this little lady needs an eye appointment.
It explained why reading with Everly was tricky sometimes. She'd never point to the right things, and would get frustrated trying to find what the staff wanted her to. They knew that she knew what they were talking about. It was just that she couldn't see it. So shortly after Everly turned 1, Cassie first took her to the pediatrician, who indeed confirmed Cassie's suspicions.
She definitely needs a visit to the optometrist. Even I can see the little astigmatism in her left eye. In some cases, that clears up as kids get older, but it is likely that she's going to need glasses.
With that confirmation, Cassie took Everly to an eye doctor, and after a series of tedious eye tests, they concluded that Everly did indeed need glasses, and was incredibly nearsighted. She was better seeing things up close, rather than far away. Cassie couldn't help but feel bad she hadn't noticed this problem sooner. It was as if Everly's life so far had been nothing but a blur. She would remember all those little odd moments with Everly regarding her vision. One time, Everly had pointed to someone thinking it was Cassie, when in actuality, it was Delilah, her assistant office manager, who looked nothing like Cassie. Sure, they both had a similar shade of brown hair, hence why she got confused. But at the time, Cassie had chalked it up to a cute little mistake from Everly's still learning faces. Had Cassie known that Everly literally couldn't see faces from that distance, it wouldn't have been so cute. But the past was past, and there was no time like the present. It could have been worse. She could have found out years from now. Even the eye doctor had told Cassie she should be proud of herself for catching this so early in Everly's life. It could have led to her eyes getting much worse as she got older. While picking out frames, Cassie held Everly up and brought her close to the frame options so she could pick. She was almost sad about it, though, since Everly had the most gorgeous eye color, that beautiful mossy olive green that flickered with bits of honey brown in the light. To cover them with glasses would be such a shame, but that didn't matter at the end of the day. What did matter was Everly's eyesight and her happiness. She knew that once Everly would be able to see properly, she'd feel so much better, especially during reading time.
Which ones do you like, Everly?
The curious toddler's eyes scanned the frame rack, occasionally reaching out to touch some of the options. But she eventually fixated on a pair with octagon lenses, rimmed by a thin purple metal outline. Perhaps it was the bright color, the largeness of them, or the unique shape. Cassie wasn't exactly sure. But her tiny hand reached out to grab the pair, making Cassie grin proudly.
Good job! You like those ones?
Cassie took the glasses and gently placed them on Everly. The tester frames were adorably massive on her teeny tiny face. It just made Cassie laugh out loud.
You look so pretty, Ebbs. You wanna see?
Cassie eagerly brought Everly over to a nearby mirror so she could look at herself. She looked up at Cassie for a moment, before the toddler tilted her head and waddled over to the mirror. The moment she could see the glasses, a precious smile washed over her face as her forest green eyes lit up with that sweet honey brown spark as she giggled. It almost made Cassie cry. She could tell that Everly got such a kick out of it.
I know. You look so pretty, Bubba. What do you think? Are those the ones?
The baby clapped in response, leading Cassie to scoop her back up and praise her for making the decision all by herself. Everly's scream giggled at her as sent back into her favorite person's arms.
Yay, Evie! You got your glasses!
Although Cassie nearly panicked at the price of those particular frames, she placed an order for her prescription glasses, thankful for the orphanage's eye insurance. And when they finally came in, prescription and all, it was momentous. As soon as Cassie saw the logo of the eyewear company on the box, she nearly sprinted down to the nursery to give them to Everly.
Evs! Look what Cassie's got!
Delilah was in there feeding one of the other babies, and even she knew exactly what Cassie was talking about.
Oh my god, are her glasses here?
Cassie nodded excitedly, leading Delilah to squeal with joy and anticipation. She stood up from the rocking chair as Cassie pulled Everly out of her crib.
Are you gonna get to see finally? Are you so excited?
I think you're more excited than she is, Cass.
Delilah teased.
Oh, shush! This is a big deal!
Cassie began to tear open the box with her free hand. They came in a matching violet case, and the lenses were noticeably thick. She was warned that Everly may experience headaches while adjusting to the prescription, and now Cassie could see why. Delilah was just now seeing the frame she had picked, giggling outright.
Oh my god, stop it! Those are so Everly!
I know. She picked them all by herself. Like a big girl.
Cassie gushed with pride.
Oh yeah? Wow, she's so smart. Are you so smart, girlie?
Delilah gently pinched one of Everly's squishy cheeks, making her smile. So Cassie put Everly down on the ground and put the glasses on Everly's face. The sweet girl looked utterly baffled at this new sensation, her eyes and mouth wide open. It made the two women laugh.
Wow! What do you think? Can you see yourselves?
After blinking a few times, it was like the idea of sight clicked in Everly's mind. She pointed at Cassie, saying her name in her adorable baby babble.
Cassie.
Cassie jumped up and down ecstatically, quickly putting her hands on Delilah's shoulders.
Yes! funny. Who's this?
Dita.
Atta girl, you're the smartest little lady we ever did see.
Delilah cheered. Cassie picked Everly back up and spun her around, making both of them laugh. Cassie peppered the baby's face with proud kisses.
Oh my god. I'm so happy for you, Everly.
Be happy for us too, Cass. Reading is going to be so much more fun with her now. Oh my gosh.
Delilah sighed with relief.
Do you want to show everyone your glasses? You want to show him how smart you are? Come on!
Those glasses would end up being a total game changer for Everly. Once she was able to properly see, her confidence and desire to read skyrocketed. She was a completely new kid from this point onward. It was as if she was missing a piece of herself before having glasses. Those silly purple frames became that girl's comfort item. No teddy, no blanket, just those glasses. Heaven forbid someone were to take them away from her. It was like unleashing the floodgates on the biggest dam in all the land. She'd even fuss if someone were to take them off so she could go to sleep. She loved being able to see so much that she never ever wanted to go another day without vision. Because of her confidence boost, she became more vocal too. She had always been a bit quieter of a baby, but once getting those glasses, the orphanage never heard the end of her adorable babbling. Her favorite toy in the whole playroom was a bubblegum pink toy piano that she would constantly plunk and sing along to. It was like every time she entered the room, she'd put on her own little concert for all to hear.
You singing, Evs? You sing it, girl.
Whenever the kids would get some time on tablets, Everly would opt for games with lots of music, namely piano-themed games. She also enjoyed TV shows that would sing songs frequently, dancing and singing along to their simple melodies with total glee. Once the staff started to notice this musical preference of hers, they started to introduce Everly to mainstream songs on the radio. However, most pop hits weren't warranting the reaction the staff thought they would. She wouldn't cry or anything, and she did enjoy whenever they would put any music on, but it didn't make her go ballistic. One day, however, Cassie was in the room next to the playroom, cleaning up some leftover toys. There were only a few kids left playing before nap time, Everly being one of them. Cassie had started playing some peaceful jazz music to unwind after a busy day. Catherine Foster's rendition of Sooner or Later was what caught Everly's attention. She looked up from her little piano and curiously stepped her way into the next room where Cassie was cleaning. She started singing along, despite not knowing the song, catching Cassie's attention.
Evika, you wanna help me?
The girl nodded, stumbling into the room on her little feet, and dancing to the song while she sang remnants of what she knew of the melody. Cassie giggled, dancing with Everly a bit.
Oh, you like this one, huh? Are you an old soul, baby?
Everly seemed to adore the sound of Catherine's voice, giggling at every nuanced run of notes and belt. So Cassie continued to play her music, leaving Everly in a joyful daze after she was done dancing. She eventually fell asleep on the floor once Cassie was done cleaning. It was absolutely adorable in Cassie's eyes. She told everyone about it afterward. It became a constant that Everly and Cassie would listen to Catherine Foster's music every day before nap time. Everly eventually learned the words to every single song and would actually sing along. Her voice was surprisingly pretty for how young she was. It was as if the singer's technique had found its way into Everly, like she was some sort of sponge to it. Singing was all Everly wanted to do once she could form sentences. On Everly's 3rd birthday, Cassie even upgraded Everly's toy piano to a real kid's piano, with a little stool and everything. Yes, it was wildly out of the orphanage's budget at the time, but the utter glee on Everly's face made it beyond worth it to Cassie.
Piano!
Everly rushed over to it as soon as it was unveiled, sitting down on the stool eagerly.
Yeah! Your very own pickle piano! Do you love it?
Cassie clapped.
Yeah! I love it! Thank you, Miss Cassie! You're very welcome! Happy birthday! I love you! Love you!
Everly's time in the orphanage wasn't all sunshine and rainbows, though. Cassie tried her hardest to make it feel that way for her. But despite those efforts, Everly tended to play by herself and did not enjoy playing with other kids. Mostly because as they got older, the other kids would try to take Everly's glasses, leading to tantrums. The other kids were merely doing it out of curiosity and playfulness, of course, but Everly took that as a threat. Those glasses were everything to her. No one was allowed to touch them besides her. Soon, the other kids caught on to this, and they would take them to get her reaction and mess with her. They thought it was funny because Everly found it the furthest thing from humorous. But in Everly's young mind, she was entirely justified in her outbursts. What if they broke her glasses? What if she wasn't able to get new ones? What if she was never able to see ever again? The idea terrified her. It led to the other kids making fun of her for every little thing they could, especially her fixation on music and singing. As far as the staff was aware, Everly was the only kid who enjoyed music so passionately. Sure, any kid could get on board with a fun, educational song, but Everly was the only one who was obsessed with music as a concept. Anyone who watched her plunking her piano or singing a ballad could feel her honest love for music radiating off of her aura. Not to mention she was a natural at it. Since Cassie couldn't afford to get her piano lessons, Everly basically taught herself everything she knew. Cassie tried her best to assist by getting Everly some books to teach her some voice and piano basics, and the little one was enthralled by them. She'd stay up constantly past her bedtime reading those books, quietly testing out new skills she picked up. It got to the point where Everly was leagues above the standard reading level for her age, and Cassie had to get her more advanced books at the young adult level when Everly was a mere 5 years old. But of course, anytime a child shows a sign of enjoyment in reading instead of playing with toys, relentless teasing would appear from the other kids. Those blasted stereotypes were the bane of Everly's existence, and the glasses she loved so dearly didn't help in the slightest.
She likes grown-up books.
She's a nerd.
Her glasses are funny.
Why is she always screaming?
I don't want to play with Everly. She's a geek.
It was a problem that the staff hoped would get better with time, but sadly only seemed to get worse. Kids this age were brutally honest and didn't have any tact in their words or thoughts. That was a skill that would need to be taught. Thankfully, Everly's advanced intellect had taught her to not give in to the kids' petty teasing and just keep to herself. She wouldn't even entertain the idea of playing with them if they were going to act like that. She was perfectly happy being alone with her piano and her books. She was so laser-focused on her hobby that she didn't have the time or desire to break out and indulge in anything else. She wanted to become a singer, just like Catherine Foster, and even at this early stage of her life, Everly was determined to achieve that dream, even if it meant shutting out the rest of the world. But the adults couldn't help but worry for her, though. Sure, Everly was the closest thing to a prodigy, and they were all so proud of her accomplishments and wildly clear dreams. But this antisocial attitude would only hurt her as she got older, they feared. She'd have trouble making friends and creating bonds with other people. There was nothing wrong with alone time, nothing at all. but an excess was the concern. Cassie and the rest of the staff could only hope Everly would open up more to her peers once they grew up and matured. As valid of a concern as it was, however, it would only be the beginning of the rocky road called life Everly would venture through. She'd learn soon that these simple days she had in the orphanage were to be cherished, for her sake.